In this video, I am ranking the most popular credit cards using a tier list where S and A tier are the highest. These are the credit cards that are good and worth going out of your way to get versus everything else, which may not be worth your trouble. Starting off with a very popular card these days, the Chase Freedom Unlimited. This is one of the best beginner credit cards out there because it has a $0 annual fee and it gets you in the door with Chase if you are looking to eventually have some of their more premium cards like the Preferred Reserve or the business cards. This card in particular gives you unlimited 1.5% cash back on all of your purchases, 3% back on dining, 3% at drugstores, and 5% back when you spend money on travel through Chase. You also get a $200 bonus after you spend $500 in the first 3 months of the account being opened, which is essentially 40% cash back in the first year that you open it. Personally, I think this is one of the better no annual fee cards out there because the cash back will show up in your account as Chase Ultimate Rewards points, which are some of the most valuable credit card rewards out there, especially if you pair them with a Chase Sapphire later on. I'll put the Chase Freedom Unlimited solidly in the A tier, which means that it's a really good card to have in your wallet. The next card, though, isn't so lucky, and that's actually going to be the Apple Card. I'm firmly putting this card in the D tier on my list, which is the lowest tier today, because while the Apple Card does offer you 2% cash back on purchases, you actually have to use Apple Pay in order to get that 2% cash back. Not everybody has or uses Apple Pay. So if you somehow forget to use Apple Pay or use the physical card itself, you will only get 1% back on all of your purchases. In my opinion, the Apple Card has a great user interface and it's super accessible and easy to apply for since you can do it all on your phone, but the cashback rewards are just straight up weak. If you want a straight cashback card, there are many other options that we'll talk about later on in this video. But the Apple Card is one that you can definitely pass on, not to mention a huge reason for some of these cards today being excellent. Really just hinges on their sign-up offer, which the Apple Card, it doesn't even offer one. For these reasons, I think the Apple Card is super overrated. Even though the card physically is titanium and metal, it's just a card that I'm not actively getting. Now, if we want to talk about cards I am actively seeking to get, we have our first S-tier credit card that I'm talking about today, which has a huge sign-up bonus and is one of the best all-around credit cards out there for everyday spend. And that, in my opinion, is the American Express Gold Card. This is the card that I use the most often in my wallet, and there's a good reason for it because the welcome offer on this card can be as high as a H100,000 points, which is worth the equivalent of $1,000. You also get 4x points on restaurants and groceries, 3x points on flights, 2x points on prepaid hotels through their portal, and 1x points on everything else. Now, the American Express Gold does come with a $325 annual fee, but there are easy ways to offset the cost of the fee, including the $120 Uber Cash credit, the $100 Reezy credit, the $84 Dunkin' Donuts credit, and a $120 dining credit at certain restaurant partners. And if you book any hotels through MX's The Hotel Collection, when you book at least 2 nights, you get $100 experience credit, room upgrades when available, early check-in, and late checkout. And that's personally one of my favorite perks about the card, which is that when you do travel to any hotel for work or pleasure, it's a really nice touch to be able to show up, a little bit early, check in, or check out as late as 400 p.m. And you usually get $100 worth of experience credit. So I usually use that on room service or a spa if they have it. So the MX Gold definitely belongs in the S tier in my opinion. Now, before I get into the next card, I also want to share that I'm putting all of these cards in a Notion cheat sheet that is public in case you want all the information in one place. I will link to that spreadsheet down in the description below in case you want to reference that later. For now though, let's go to another card where if you don't want to spend over $300 on an annual fee, this one has a $0 annual fee, and it offers you a ton of cash back value, and that is the Capital One Saver card. This card gets you 3% cash back on restaurants, groceries, and popular streaming services, 1% cash back on everything else, and 5% cash back on travel booked through Capital One Travel. The best part is that the sign-up bonus is typically very good. You get a $200 cash bonus after you spend $500 in the first 3 months, plus a $100 Capital One travel credit during your first year. So that's essentially 60% cash back on your first $500 in spend if you can manage to spend that within the first 3 months, which I think is very doable. You also have the option to convert the cash back to Capital One miles and transfer them to various hotel and airline partners, which I think can be very helpful if you carry the more premium older brother credit card to this card, which is the Capital One Venture X, which we will talk about later. For these reasons, I think this card belongs solely in the A tier. I think it's a credit card that you should plan to have if you want to have the Capital One Venture X at some point in your life. Speaking of must-have credit cards though, let's talk about business credit cards. Now, I wanted to make sure I at least covered 2 of the best business credit cards available on the market right now, and that is, in my opinion, the Chase Business Inc. Unlimited and the Chase Business Inc. Cash. If you have a small business or a sole proprietorship or even a big business, you can apply for these cards, and these are great to get rewarded for the spend you are already making for your business. Both cards usually have great welcome offers, so you want to make sure to check their respective pages to see what you can get for signing up. Both cards also have a $0 annual fee, which is really refreshing to see on a business card. That means it basically costs you nothing to get rewarded. The Ink. Cash rewards you with 5% cash back on office supply stores, internet, cable, and phone on the first $25,000 that you spend every year, as well as 2% cash back at gas stations and restaurants. Again, up to $25,000 spent and 1% back on everything else. The Ink. Unlimited earns you 1.5% unlimited cash back on all your purchases. And I love that it's just super straightforward. And just knowing that you're getting 1.5% cash back on all of your business expenses can be really powerful. For both of these cards, the cash back is awarded to you in the form of Chase Ultimate Rewards points, which are really great if you want to take advantage of them for hotels and airlines. For these reasons, I think if you have a business, these are the best credit cards for that purpose. And these belong squarely in the S and A tier as well. The Ink. Unlimited will be in the S tier just because of the flexibility of the cash back. And then the INC Cash will be in the A tier only because the cashback categories are slightly more restrictive. Alright, so far we've talked about some cards with $0 annual fees, some with higher annual fees like the MX Gold, but what about cards with a reasonable annual fee? That's where the Chase Sapphire Preferred comes in. For a $95 annual fee, you get a lot of value. Not only do you get 3x points on dining, 2x points on travel, and 1x points on everything else. You also get a $50 hotel credit every single year. And the welcome offer gives you $75,000 bonus points if you spend $5,000 in the first 3 months, which is the equivalent of $750 in cash. Or it could be worth up to $1,500 if you use it on travel through the Chase portal. That's the equivalent of $600 in cash, or it could be worth up to $750 if you use it on travel through the Chase portal. When you combine this card with a Chase Freedom Unlimited, a Chase Freedom Flex, or perhaps a Chase Sapphire Reserve, which we will talk about later, you can really maximize your value in all the ways that you spend. I would say if you are someone that already has a couple $0 annual fee credit cards and you're looking to step up your credit card game to start maximizing rewards and points specifically for travel, then the Chase Sapphire Preferred is the best gateway card out there. For these reasons, I'm going to put this card squarely in the A tier today. Changing gears now, let's talk about some of the most popular retail credit cards out there, which are the Citi Costco Anywhere Visa and the Chase Amazon Prime Visa. These cards are really good if you shop at Costco or if you shop at Amazon regularly. With the Costco card, you get 5% cash back on gas at Costco, 3% back at restaurants and travel, and 2% back on Costco and Costco.com purchases in general. You also get 1% cash back on everything else. So I think that if you shop at Costco or your life revolves around 1 Costco trip or 2 Costco trips a week, you are going to love this card. And there's also a $0 annual fee. I will say though, there is no intro offer when it comes to this card. So that's a little bit of a bummer. The Amazon Prime Visa is also very similar. You will get 5% cash back on Amazon and Amazon Fresh, 5% back at Whole Foods Market, 5% back at Audible.com, and 2% back at gas stations, restaurants, and local transit. You also then get 1% back on all other purchases and 5% back on Chase Travel. Now, there is no annual fee with this card as well, but I really think it only makes sense to use this card if you are spending a lot of money on Amazon. Therefore, I think both the Costco and the Amazon Prime card here are going to be solidly in the B tier. They would be in the A tier if they were more versatile. However, both cards are super specific in that they really require you to shop at their respective stores to make them worth it. These are cards I'm not really going out of my way to get, but if somebody tells me that they have these cards, I'm not generally upset about it. I'm just like, oh, nice. But still, for maximizing credit card rewards, I think these belong in the B tier. Next up on our list is the Citi Double Cash card. This is a no frills, no annual fee, 2% cashback card. You get 1% back when you make a purchase and 1% back when you pay it off. There are no categories to keep track of, no spending caps to worry about, and no rotating bonuses that change every quarter. It's just straight up 2% cash back on all of your purchases, making it perfect for everyday spending. And the standard offer is to give you $200 back when you spend $1,500 in the first 6 months. I think there are some better cashback cards out there these days, but this was the original one that really piqued my interest back in the day when I was getting into credit cards. This lands it squarely in the B tier. It's not amazing by any means. You can definitely get better, but I still like the concept. The next card though belongs in the A tier, and that is the Built Master card. This is the card that gives you rewards for paying your rent on it. So that's right. With this card, you actually can pay your rent with this card and you will get points for paying your rent. You get 1x built points per dollar on rent for up to $100,000 worth of rent payments per year instead of paying 2.9% of a transaction fee for paying your rent via credit card. Bilt will waive that fee, so you don't pay any fees for paying your rent. And that's the huge reason to get this card, which is that many credit card companies won't waive the transaction fee when you charge your rent to your credit card. So this is one of the only ways to get rewarded for what is going to be probably the biggest expense for the majority of people. This card also has a $0 annual fee, which is great. And to qualify for the Bilt rewards, you just have to know that you must use the card 5 times each statement period in order to qualify for the Bilt points. Your rent payment will count as one of those transactions. And with the other 4 transactions, if you really wanted to just use this card for rent and rent alone, you could just charge 4 smaller charges to the card itself every single month. All right, now it's time we talk about another premium travel credit card today. And this one is another card that will belong in the S tier, and it's the Capital One Venture X card. The standard welcome offer gives you $75,000 miles if you spend $4,000 in the first 3 months, which is the equivalent of $750 in bonuses. And you also get a $120 global entry or TSA pre-check credit. Now, the annual fee is $395 per year, but this can easily be offset by the $300 annual travel credits and the 10,000 bonus miles you get every single year for owning the card, which is the equivalent of $100 in bonuses. You get 10x miles on hotels and rental cars booked through Capital One Travel, 5x miles on flights and vacation rentals, and 2x miles on all other purchases every day. That's the equivalent of around 2% cashback in points. And you will also get access to over 1,300 Capital One lounges at airports. So if your home airport has a Capital One lounge, it will be really nice to have this card. If you also have the Capital One Saver, you now have what's called the Capital One Duo, which is a very popular term, and it just means that you have both of those cards. In that setup, you would use your Capital One Saver for everything that is 3%, for example, groceries, dining, and entertainment. And then you would use the Venture X for everything else. It's a pretty much brainless setup with no headaches, and the Saver rewards are then transferable to the Venture X, so it's a really great synergistic combo. So the Venture X is definitely an S tier card in my book, but now I think it would be fun to talk about some cards that I probably am not going to be getting and belong in a lower tier that you should be aware of. And those are the airline credit cards, like the American Express Delta Sky Miles card, the American Airlines credit card by Citi, and also the United Explorer card. All of these cards are super airline specific, and if you aren't a frequent flyer, you should not be getting these cards. However, I could see a case that, for example, if you fly United a lot, it might be worth getting the United specific card, but even then, that's only if you're really trying to qualify for a certain frequent flyer status, or if you fly so much that airlines are a big part of your life. In most cases, airline credit cards aren't really that worth it. So I'm going to lump all of these into the C tier today. The next card on our list is an ultra premium card, and that is the American Express Platinum card. Now, as of filming this right now, it has a $695 annual fee, but rumors are that this is going to increase in the next year or two to possibly $895. For this fee, the standard welcome offer is anywhere from $80,000 to $175,000 bonus points if you spend $8,000 in 6 months. That's a lot to spend in the first 6 months. However, the type of person that they are trying to target probably has this type of budget. If you're able to time the opening of this card with some big purchases that you have, it could be worth it to get. Now, this used to be one of my favorite cards, but honestly, these days, I think the best reason to even have this card is just for the lounge access. You can still make up the annual fee pretty easily with the $200 hotel credit, the $240 entertainment credit, the $200 in Uber Cash and airline fee credits, and miscellaneous other credits like the $300 Equinox credit, the Saks credit, or the Walmart Plus credit. Now, I think that if you use 60% or more of the perks, then you can easily justify this card easily because you will probably make up the annual fee, but I think the best part of this card is mostly for the lounge. Like I said earlier, because when you do travel, you get a free place to hang out, you get free food, and you can have great Wi-Fi before your flight. For me, it's become a routine to get to the airport probably an hour before boarding. And just like that, I'm able to have a meal, hydrate myself before a flight. And every time I do this, I feel like I probably save about $30 at the airport. The Platinum doesn't get you much in terms of points multipliers, so that's why I don't use it every day. But the idea is that if you travel at least one time per month, you can get a ton of value out of this card. For this reason, I'm putting this card in the B tier. If it had a lower annual fee, I might consider it A tier. Or if it had better point multipliers, I would also put it in the A tier as well. But for now, B tier. The next 2 cards I'm going to talk about are the new Wells Fargo credit cards, the Wells Fargo Autograph and the Autograph Journey. I'm going to put both of these cards in the C tier. Now, I don't hate Wells Fargo as much as the internet does, and I don't think that these cards are bad per se. They're actually fine for someone who just doesn't have a lot of cards or just wants something simple and easy and straightforward. But I think if we're talking about maximizing credit card rewards and maximizing credit card points, I think there are just a lot more better options out there. For example, let's look at the Wells Fargo Autograph card. It has 3x points on multiple categories like restaurants, gas and transit, and a 20,000 point welcome bonus when you spend $1,000. Again, that's not bad, but when it comes to transfer partners, that is where Wells Fargo lacks a little bit compared to, say, the Chase suite of cards. I do acknowledge that the Wells Fargo autograph doesn't have an annual fee, but a huge reason why we rank cards on this channel the way that we do is to try to maximize the value that we're going to get for our spend. Now, for that reason, I think the autograph and the autograph journey are still a little bit behind the other cards in today's list, and I will put them in the C tier for now, but I think that for the right person, they could easily be in the B tier as well. The next card we're going to talk about is something very new, and I'm excited to talk about it. It's the Robinhood Gold card, and I believe that this belongs in the S tier category. The Robinhood card offers 3% cash back across the board on all categories, no foreign transaction fees, and the annual fee is free if you have the Robinhood Gold subscription. The subscription itself is $5 a month, and it offers you a bunch of perks for their Robinhood investing platform. And it makes a lot of sense if you already invest on that website itself. So technically, the annual fee is actually $60 a year if you don't have Robinhood Gold. And if you don't use Robinhood at all, then perhaps this card is not S tier for you. However, I think a lot of people these days are using Robinhood, and if you are, then this card is going to be S tier. I love the simplicity of this card, which is that 3% cashback is very aggressive across the board. But the one thing that you must know about their cashback is that it will go straight back into your brokerage buying power. So Robinhood clearly wants you to buy stocks with your cashback rewards. And a lot of Robinhood users are day trading gamblers. So it can be really tempting to use your cash back on, let's say, gambling on individual stocks. I think it's a really amazing card if you care about your investment accounts and you care about stocks. I personally have it as S tier. Somebody might say, well, I don't have Robinhood. It's not S tier for me. And that makes sense. But I think if I were that person, I would probably sign up for Robinhood just for this card. That's how good it is. The next card is the Chase Freedom Flex. It's free to own, so another no annual fee card, and it gives you a $200 bonus just for signing up for the card and spending $500 in the first 3 months. You will get 5% back on rotating categories such as gas stations, grocery stores, and select online merchants. You also get 3% back at restaurants, 3% back on drugstore purchases, and 1% cash back on everything else. This card is really great if you enjoy keeping up with the rotating categories. Now, please note, you actually have to activate the categories every single quarter, and that's kind of a hassle, but it can be a good addition to your other Chase cards if you're willing to do that. I personally don't love that you have to do that. But if you don't mind, then I think it's a good card to have in your wallet. And I'm going to put this solidly in the B tier. The next card I want to talk about is another cashback card, and I think it's borderline on the B and the A tier. I can't really decide myself, so I'm going to put it in the B tier for now. But that's the American Express Blue Cash Everyday Card. It has targeted rewards such as 3% cash back at US supermarkets, 3% back at gas stations, 3% back on online retail purchases, and 1% back on everything else. I think the American Express Blue Cash Everyday Card is great for families who spend significantly on groceries, gas, and online shopping. It's perfect for people who want solid rewards without the complexity of premium cards. And the no annual fee structure means that every dollar of cash back is pure savings so long as you are paying off your card in full every statement cycle. The next card that is very popular among people online, but I don't really love myself, is the Capital One Quicksilver card. While it does offer 1.5% cash back on everything and a $200 welcome bonus, and it's easy to get approved for, it's just a little bit too simple, and it doesn't offer the same value as, say, the Capital One Saver card or the Citi Double Cash card. Since the Double Cash was in the B tier, I'm going to put this card, the Quicksilver, in the C tier only because the other competitive cards are just simply better. Next, we have the Wells Fargo Active Cash card. This is a solid cashback card that gives you 2% back on everything and a $200 bonus for signing up. It's not the best credit card out there. I think it's kind of average, but it is a good starter card, especially if you bank with Wells Fargo and you're looking to dip your toes into the credit card world. So I will put this in the B tier. Next up, we have two credit cards that are hotel cards. The World of Hyatt card by Chase and the Marriott Bonvoy Boundless card. Both of these cards are just okay in my opinion. Oftentimes, they're only worth it if you really want to maximize your spend with these hotel chains. For example, the World of Hyatt card has a pretty lousy welcome offer. It has 30,000 bonus points after you spend $3,000 in the first 3 months, then another 30,000 points for spending $15,000 in 6 months. You will also get 4x points on high hotels, 2x points on restaurants and certain travel, and 1x points on everything else. For the $95 annual fee that it comes with, it's certainly not the best card out there. So I would put the World of Hyatt in the C tier. For the Marriott Bonvoy card, you get 3x points on gas stations, grocery stores, and dining, as well as automatic silver elite status and a free night award every year on your anniversary. The welcome offer is average 3 free nights when you spend $3,000, and it also has a $95 annual fee. I like this card slightly more than the Chase World of High card only because the points multipliers, but I'm still going to put it in the C tier as it's pretty situational to use this. Next up on our list is the Chase Sapphire Reserve, and it's a hotly debated card right now because they recently increased the annual fee to $795, up from $550. On one hand, they increased the amount of credits that you get. You now get $500 to their hotel collection, $300 in credit to certain restaurants, and $300 to StubHub. Now here's the thing though. While an extra $100 in statement credits can outweigh the extra $245 annual fee that they increased, I would probably have to spend more money overall to justify the cost and go out of my way to actually use those credits. While you do get 8x points on Chase travel purchases and 4x points on flights and hotels and 3x points on dining, you'll also probably need a spreadsheet to keep track of all the perks and the statement credits that they offer. The one saving grace is that the welcome offer is usually pretty good between a H100,000 and 125,000 points when you spend $5,000 to $6,000 in the first 3 months. But honestly, with this card, I would take a hard look at all of the benefits, see if it fits your lifestyle, and only then would I apply for this card. What used to be the premium travel credit card that I would have considered a tier or maybe even S tier, I think that the new changes now make it a solid B tier card. It's just okay. And it's only in specific cases would I actually consider it worth getting. I think that the Unlimited, the Flex, or the Preferred by Chase all provide more value and get you in the Chase door a little bit better. I'm curious to think what your thoughts are down below, so let me know. The next card on our list is the City Custom Cash card. It's one of these cards that sits in a little bit of a weird spot among the entire landscape because it does offer you 5% cash back on one category, and that category is the one that you spend the most money in. An eligible category, for example, are restaurants, gas stations, grocery stores, home improvement stores, fitness clubs, etc. But here's the catch. The cash back you can get is only up to $500 that you spend per billing cycle. That means your cash back is essentially capped at $25 cash back per billing cycle, which is really not that great. With a $0 annual fee and a $200 cash back welcome offer after you spend $1,500 in the first 6 months. It's not the worst card out there, but I would prefer something that's a little bit more simple and straightforward. I'm putting this card in the C tier only because I think there are way more competitive cards out there. The next credit card is very popular, and it's the Discover It Cashback card. With this card, you get 5% cash back on rotating categories every single quarter and 1% cash back on everything else. The rotating categories you have to keep track of, but if you're able to do this, you can really maximize the rewards from this card. There is no annual fee for this card, and it's easy to get approved for. And what's crazy is that they have the cashback match for the first year that you have this card with no limit on that cashback. So that means effectively in the first year, if you earn, say, $500 in cash back, they will match it and give you another $500 in cash back as well. That's a really great offer, but it's only for the first year only. And it's a solid overall credit card because it has no annual fee. Now, for that reason, I'm going to put this card squarely in the B tier. Alright, so we just ranked 28 of the most popular credit cards by tiers. Now, obviously, I don't think you should go and open all 28 of these cards, but if you want to choose like 1 or 2 or 3 of your favorites, that's probably a pretty good start. Make sure to check out the free cheat sheet that I made down below in the description, as well as links to all the credit cards down below. And if you want to see my video on the best 7 credit cards that are, in my opinion, the ones that have, make sure to check out this video. I will see you guys in that video or a future one on my channel. I hope that you enjoy these types of videos, and I'll see you later. Peace.